Roll call.
Chisel. Neal. Olson.
Here.
Luce.
Here.
Sittergruen.
Here.
Hadley.
Here.
Johnson.
Here.
Is there anybody here who wishes to speak to the council about anything that is not on the agenda? Seeing none, consent agenda.
Item A, minutes of the December 20th, 2021 City Council regular meeting. Item B, claims. Item C, tax abatement for Englehart Supplement Trust, 1008 South Mechanic Street, new construction. Item D, renewal of Casey's General Stores, number 2183, Class E liquor license. Item E, appointment of Mike Ashbacker as Fire Chief, Jeff Clement as First Assistant Chief, and Lee Bierke as Second Assistant Chief per City Code Section 2.14.020. Item F, approved Driftless Multimedia as the official newspaper for City of Decorah.
Move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Moved by Chisel, seconded by Neal, to approve the consent agenda. Roll call.
Chisel.
Aye.
Neal.
Aye.
Olson.
Aye.
Luce.
Aye.
Sittergruen.
Aye.
Hadley.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Decorah Public Library presentation.
Well, Greg offered to do this presentation in my stead with a puppet performing as me, but I guess he got a little stage fright, so my apologies. You're just going to get me tonight. So I think we're all pretty well acquainted. I'm Kristen Torsdahl. I'm the director at the Decorah Public Library, and just wanted to talk to you a little bit about some of the goings on at the library this last year, and certainly answer any questions that you might have now or at a later time. So 2021 really was sort of the year of adaptation at the library and elsewhere, as I'm sure you're aware. We really worked hard throughout the entirety of the year to adapt all of our library services, programs, and collection offerings to meet the needs of the community as we navigated the different stages of the COVID pandemic, as well as a pretty large scale interior renovation that we were wrapping up during the first part of the year. So as you know, our building was closed to the public due to the pandemic, and then our large interior renovation. And so from about March 2020 until the end of February 2021, we were primarily closed physically. And then we started to open our phased reopening plan, sort of working through the various steps based on local COVID benchmarks at the end of February last year. And we were very thankful to reach a point by the beginning of June 2021, where we were able to return to full hours and services within the library building itself. During the time that we were closed physically to the public, we really worked to offer as many services and programs as we were able under those conditions. And so one of the things that looked like was curbside pickup of library materials. We actually checked out close to 35,000 items that we were able to deliver to the public during curbside services during the part of the year that we were closed physically. So that was a pretty big commitment on the part of our staff. And we also had custom book bundles that we hand selected for patrons of all ages that have proven to be pretty popular, and is something that we've continued now that we're fully open. One way that we describe that is it's sort of like Stitch Fix for books. Tell us some things you like, some things that you've read, and we'll hand select some other items for you, whether that's children's materials or adult materials. I think it's been a nice relationship building tool between staff and the public as well, and another value-added service that we can offer. Take and make crafts are another way that we really work to reach out to our community members, both during the time that the library was closed and after we were physically reopened, sort of as a response to a lot of kids and families that maybe didn't have the comfort level being indoors for an extended period or attending programs with a larger group of folks. So our children's and young adult librarian, Rachel, put a lot of time and effort into putting together weekly take and make projects that are simple arts and crafts kits that patrons can pick up for free once a week at the library and bring home to do with kids, caregivers, grandparents. This is something that's proved popular enough that we're also continuing it now that we're back open, because we've discovered one of the many lessons of the pandemic that this is really meeting a need that we weren't meeting previously, which is how do we engage with grandparents or parents who maybe would like to but aren't able to attend story times or other in-library programming. This is a really great and versatile option that people can do right in the comfort and safety of their own home. In the last year, Rachel put together over 3,000 take and make kits for kids and families. Another thing that allowed us to really continue to reach our demographic during the time our physical space was closed was the delivery of large print materials. As you may know, we have a sizable large print book collection, over 9,000 items, and we circulated those to over 16,000 users in the last year, which includes local patrons, local care facilities, as well as over 120 libraries throughout the state of Iowa. So that program continues to be in high demand, in part because obviously a lot of people need those materials due to vision loss and other situations, but also because they're fairly expensive to collect. So it makes more sense to have a few libraries across the state collect those resources and then share them widely, rather than every small library try to collect them individually. Another thing that we did through the time that the library was closed and even beyond was to really put some energy into digital offerings so that we could continue to connect with families, caregivers, educators, and youth while they were at home. So Rachel, our children's and youth librarian in particular, spent a lot of time putting together videos for baby time, story time, and a bunch of other interactive programming that people could participate at their leisure. One of the things that was sort of an unexpected side effect of this approach was that we actually were able to expand our audience for some of these offerings, and people were able to access them asynchronously. So if a 10:30 story time at the library doesn't fit your schedule, you can always pull it up on YouTube at another time. We also put additional resources into digital materials, ebooks, digital audiobooks, online film streaming, things that have been popular before and certainly experienced a growth in popularity during the pandemic. As COVID numbers dropped and as we were able to fully reopen in spring and summer 2021, we began the exercise in creativity that was figuring out how to meet a really wide variety of interest and comfort levels as far as gathering goes. So we did a number of surveys of our users and talked one-on-one with different user groups to find out what do you need from the library, what's gonna feel good to you and comfortable at this time. And what we found out is much what you'd expect, that those comfort levels and sort of need for connection were sort of all over the map. So what that meant for us was really continuing to reimagine how we can provide programming, whether it's digital, whether it's hybrid, whether it's in person, whether it's inside, whether it's outside, whether it's distanced, whether it's drop-in, whether it's passive programming like the take and make, so that people can sort of come and go. And we really tried to offer a variety of all of those things so that there was something for everyone, no matter where they were sort of in their own family and with their own needs, and they could sort of mix and match in a way that felt comfortable. Here we see an all ages story time that we did several times throughout the season when the weather allowed. Throughout the spring and summer and then into the fall, outdoor story times and Friday field trips proved popular. If you look closely, you may even recognize one of the persons in this photo. We partnered with a number of other community organizations to offer some of those events. And as I've sort of mentioned throughout, we've really been thinking as we move to, I'd like to say the end of the pandemic, but let's face it, the next phase of the pandemic, what things we've learned we can sort of carry forward as far as new and better ways to serve our patrons, ways to increase accessibility, ways to meet demographic needs that we maybe haven't fully met before. Some of the things that we've noted, as we've returned to somewhat business as usual, the popularity of our grab and go reserves, which are a contactless option to just pop in, grab whatever items you've put on hold, pop out, they're already ready to go. Doesn't require any extra time in the library or person-to-person interaction if that's something that you're minimizing right now. Really continuing to think about varied programming in terms of format. For example, we've realized that while some people are feeling kind of zoomed out and don't really want to do adult book groups online anymore, there are other people for whom, because of childcare, because of mobility, because of not wanting to drive at night, because of physical location, it's a great option. It's a way that we can reach folks that maybe we weren't reaching before. So there are a number of considerations along those lines that we'll be taking into account as we think about how to move forward. Even as hopefully in the future, we're more able to gather in person. I think there are ways that we can sort of intermingle different program platforms. Of course, take and make kits have proven hugely popular and continue to be. Rachel's often putting together well over 100 of those kits per week. And actually they're open to all ages. So if you feel like you maybe want to get a little crafty, I highly recommend it. It's a fun activity. I made myself a little fox ornament out of some felt and a pine cone recently and gave it to my mom. I think she appreciated the first homemade craft in about 25 years. So, you know, if you need a little enjoyment in your life, that might be fun. We've also really increased our focus on digital materials. Ebooks and digital audios and other streaming services, of course, have been increasing in popularity for a number of years. That's really ramped up during the pandemic, and that's not something that's going to go away. I'm not seeing a huge drop off in the desire for physical materials, which is something that sort of doomsayers of libraries have been talking about for upwards of 30 years now. The data doesn't really bear that out, but we do know that people like to have a variety of format options. And so digital is certainly something that we need to figure out how to balance sort of the need for those more expensive formats with the existing budget that we have. Another thing that we've really noticed and that will carry forward into the future is the importance of workplace flexibility in terms of having systems and tools in place so that if staff members need to be out in isolation or quarantine or caring for young children, we have systems so that they're still able to work remotely to the extent that that's possible under whatever their personal circumstances are. And we're able to sort of manage that to keep workflows going. We've been fortunate that we have a staff set up such that we haven't really had to interrupt public services thus far, knock on wood, but we have been working hard at cross-training and other efforts so that we can really keep that going into the future. And I think there are a lot of good reasons to be doing those things above and beyond the pandemic. So looking forward to the future, currently we're wrapping up the accreditation process with the State Library of Iowa, which is a rather in-depth project that we go through every 3 years. There are a number of components. One is a full review of all policies with our board and updates. Another is the creation of a new 3-year strategic plan. So we're currently wrapping up a lot of those components and we'll be submitting all of those documents at the end of February. And the next year, we're also really looking forward to rolling out some new programming for children and adults on a variety of platforms. And we're also really looking forward to continuing to sort of examine some of the lessons that we learned from the pandemic, as well as look to the future and continue to try to find new and innovative ways to serve our local community and try to sort of stay ahead of the curve of what are the wants, what are the needs, how can we be there for people, maybe even before they fully articulated to themselves what some of those things might look like. We're really fortunate to have a really creative and hardworking staff. So I think the future is bright, and I really want to give some accolades to our staff for all the good creative work that they've done over the last 18 months, especially managing a pandemic and a renovation that was really disruptive. All at the same time, our staff has really done some excellent work, so I want to recognize that for sure. Ultimately, I think it's been a successful year in terms of circulation, in terms of programming. Even with the closure for part of the year, we still circulated over 90,000 items. We still provided over 260 programs with over 6,500 attendances. And we've managed to really tackle some other large scale projects at the same time. So although it's been a year of challenges, I think it's been a year of many successes. And I know that we're all really excited and looking forward to 2022, which of course, like all of you, we're hoping is a slightly more normal year than any of the last few that we have gone through recently. In closing, thank you so much for your support. I really can't tell you how much it means to a small town public library to have the support of its stakeholders, especially in going through such challenging times as we've had in the last year and a half. There are certainly communities where that's not the case, and I think it just makes for such a stronger relationship and such a stronger community when the city and the county and the library can all be on the same page in support of services to their citizens together. So thank you very much for that. Questions, comments?
I would just make a comment that I've heard so many wonderful things about the library. And so I also, in recognizing your staff, I also want to commend you and your leadership of the library, because I think it really has been a shining star for many, many families in this pandemic. And I really appreciate all the work that you put into it and the creativity. So thanks.
Thank you.
Yep, just wanted to note that the having personal experience hearing what a lifeline the large print delivery collection was for people who were in isolation in care facilities during COVID lockdown. Just kudos for keeping that going. I think it literally was one of the few lifelines for some of those people.
Any other comments?
Yeah, I just wanted to applaud you too on being creative in what you guys were doing and getting books out to people during this COVID time and stuff like that. I know a lot of people rely on the public library to get that stuff out to them, and applaud you guys for being that creative to get that out to them. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, if you think of questions, or if you'd like to come take a look at our renovations or just chat all things library, I would be happy to talk further at any time. Really anything at all. I could talk for a long time about libraries. I promised a few of my compatriots in the back that I wouldn't talk for a long time tonight, but feel free to reach out anytime.
Thank you, Kristen. Consider accepting easement agreement from Stephen Downing Development Company LLC for access to the Gundersen Hangar. I'm going to turn this to Travis, who maybe we'll turn it to John.
I was saying, I'm going to punt and turn it to John real quick.
So this is goes back to the 2014 development agreement with Steve Downing. And one of the conditions of that development agreement was that he would grant an easement to, I think it was called the Crosswind runway, which is really the where the Gundersen hangar is located. But also as part of that development agreement, the city had agreed to install some fire hydrants. Now, the city code for that has since changed, but since that was in the original agreement or contemplated in the original agreement, the city completed the installation of the 3 hydrants in the fall, late fall, and Steve Downing had signed the easement agreement in return. And so the city council's action at this point would be to just accept that easement from Downing Development.
Make a motion to accept the easement agreement from Steve Downing.
I'll second it.
Motion made by Neil, seconded by Johnson. Any discussion? Hearing none. Roll call.
Neil,
Aye.
Johnson,
Aye.
Olson,
Aye.
Luce,
Aye.
Zittergruen,
Aye.
Hadley,
Aye.
Chisel.
Aye.
Consider resolution 3238, setting a public hearing and considering a signed boulevard easement lease agreement with Almar Properties. Travis?
I'm going to preface this presentation with staff's recommendation is to table this item. Staff has been corresponding with Scooter's representatives considerably over the past 3 weeks. And last week on Thursday, there was an email sent that they were going to send it for legal review finally. After council's already approved, as you'll notice, it's for a signed boulevard easement lease that council's already approved with A&M Properties. So A&M Properties and Almer are two different legal entities. And so the lease agreement we currently have in place is for A&M Coffee. So and in that lease agreement, it says it's non-transferable. So the agreement can't be with Almer. They can't just assign it over. Council has to approve a new lease agreement for assignment in the right of way. We don't want to take up your time until they complete their legal review and their process. Because if they come back with any revisions, we don't want to go through this again. So staff's recommendation is to table until the next meeting.
Okay, that would be, it would be before the next I mean, you would have it at the next meeting.
One would hope.
Okay.
Hadley will make a motion to table resolution 3238.
I'll second it.
Motion made by Hadley, seconded by Neil to table. Any discussion? Hearing or seeing none, roll call.
Hadley,
Aye.
Neal,
Aye.
Luce,
Aye.
Zittergruen.
Aye.
Johnson,
Aye.
Chisel,
Aye.
Olson.
Aye.
Consider resolution 3239, setting a public hearing and considering a driveway easement agreement with Almar Properties.
So this one we're okay with.
Okay.
And from that, I mean, the Almer, we actually have a signed copy because this is part of the requirements we made of them before we were willing to put this in front of council. Sign it, get it to us, have your full legal review, have everything done so that we're going through this process once. And so this is a easement agreement for the city-owned parcel off of Short Street that's currently a shared driveway between Malcolm and Weiss. That's, as per the site plan, Scooters is putting a driveway off of that current gravel portion. Remember, their request was for the city to pave it, and we said no. This is an easement agreement for the proposed driveway that they have on that city parcel. Any other comments, John?
No, we drafted it in a way to be somewhat consistent with our prior easements that we've been involved in. But we also wanted to make sure that the other two adjoining property owners could use that because that's their means of access now. But all the costs should be on Almer Properties, who's our understanding is going to be the owner of the real estate, where A&M Coffee is the operator of the franchise.
Can I ask just a really maybe silly question, or what, is there any benefit to the city to continue to own this property, or is there any possibility of a sale to Almer and let them? I guess what I'm wondering is why are we dealing with this via easement and not a transfer?
Yeah, it goes over a stormwater a culvert, and Jeremy can probably provide better answer, but my understanding of the history is we acquired it during that stormwater drainage improvement project back in about 2012.
And also that is the access point for Malcolm and Weiss. So if a sale were to happen to Almer, that would then restrict access to Weiss and Malcolm.
Yeah, I mean, I would think that we would want to give them easements before transferring, but it sounds like the stormwater thing renders it all moot. So, okay, thanks.
Luce would move 3239 for acceptance.
Moved by Luce, seconded by Chisel for passing 3239. Any further discussion? Roll call.
Luce.
Aye.
Chisel.
Aye.
Zittergruen.
Aye.
Hadley.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Neal.
Aye.
Olson.
Aye.
Motion carries. Consider resolution 3240, setting a public hearing for the proposed fiscal year 23 maximum property tax dollars as required by SF 634. Travis?
Staff would also request this item be tabled. In the past, it's been approved and then the notice is created and then sent to the paper. We want to make sure that that notice is actually prepared ahead in front of council's consideration before this is approved. With that being said, I don't want the max levy notice for too many people to get hung up on. I don't know how Chad or Wanda has presented in the past, but this is a requirement from the state legislature that says this is the most that the city can levy, but only for these specific levies. So it's not truly the maximum levy notice. It's only for specific levies. So it can be extremely confusing if you're not paying attention. So
I think it's only been a couple years that we would do that as the first step for the budget.
correct.
And then we
It's-
would have to do all of the other ones.
Yes, it's an additional public hearing that, in my opinion, provides confusion.
Okay.
And so
You're
you want,
suggesting tabling until when?
Just until the next meeting, based on our timeframe of March 31st, that a budget has to be approved with the papers publication, we'll still actually be able to meet the same publication date because there's 5 Mondays this month. So we can still, if it's tabled in the next meeting, we can still meet the same publication date.
But isn't this just setting a public hearing?
It is, if council is comfortable with setting a public hearing without the notice prepared currently, council could take that action as well. That has been the practice in the past. But staff, we were really trying to make sure that that was prepared ahead of time. Unfortunately, not quite ready for it.
Is it potential you could do both those items at the next meeting? The public hearing and then pass it? Okay.
No, you have to set the public hearing, publish, but just based on the time frame, if it's published, or excuse me, approved tonight with the newspaper's publication requirements, it'll still be for February 7th. If council waits and tables this item, goes to the next meeting with that 5th Monday in this month, we'll still be able to meet the February 7th timeframe and have publication in time.
I move to table
I'll second.
to the next meeting.
Okay, moved by Zittergruen to table, seconded by Neil. Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Zittergruen?
Aye.
Neil?
Aye.
Hadley?
Aye.
Johnson?
Aye.
Chisel?
Aye.
Olson?
Aye.
Luce?
Aye.
Motion carried. Consider resolution 3241, deputy city clerk salary.
Okay, so in recent changes to city code, the deputy city clerk position is appointed by the city clerk, but the salary needs to be set by the council by resolution. So Renee Hill, who is currently on staff, has served as the payroll clerk, administrative assistant, has been appointed by Carrie to serve in that role. And the proposed salary is $46,483, which is these two positions for reference are the same grade in the pay matrix. It is actually a lateral move. And so this recommended salary is an increase of 2 steps to take on the additional responsibilities.
Luce would move resolution 3241.
I'll second it.
Motion made by Luce, seconded by Johnson for passing 3241. Any further discussion? Roll call.
Luce,
Aye.
Johnson,
Aye.
Hadley,
Aye.
Chisel,
Aye.
Neil,
Aye.
Olson,
Aye.
Zittergruen.
Aye.
Motion carries. Ordinance 1286 to increase Sustainability Commission from 7 to 9 people. This is the second reading.
Correct. So second reading of the ordinance, again, to summarize, the proposed changes are to move from 7 to 9. That's the main one. But this also does codify the ordinance where before it was not codified, creates a chapter in city code. And also moves the appointment dates, which are currently listed as March, moves them to January 1st. You'll notice later in the agenda, we talk about open positions on various boards and commissions. Sustainability is not mentioned because we don't have an opening yet because this ordinance has not passed.
I'd move to pass the second reading of the ordinance. regarding Sustainability Commission going from 7 to 9.
Second.
Motion made by Luce, seconded by Olson to pass 1286. Any discussion? Roll call?
Luce,
Aye.
Olson,
Aye.
Johnson,
Aye.
Chisel,
No.
Neal,
Aye.
Sittergruen,
Aye.
Hadley.
Aye.
I'd
Okay.
move to waive the third reading and approve.
Second.
We have a motion made to waive the third and approve, made by Luce, seconded by Zittergren.
Yes.
Any discussion?
Should we say adopt? Is that important?
Adopt. Third to, waive the third and adopt. I think that's what you want, correct?
Sounds good.
Roll call?
Luce,
Aye.
Sittergruen.
Aye.
Chisel,
No.
Neal,
Aye.
Olson,
Aye.
Luce, or sorry, excuse me, Hadley,
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Motion carried to waive and adopt. Consider ordinance 1287 to rezone 2324 Sweet Parkway Road from commercial to multifamily residential, first reading.
Okay, I'll preface this one again with staff's recommendation is to table until the February 7th meeting based on the feedback from council at the meeting previous to this one. Or at least that was my understanding that, I guess I shouldn't preface. Let's just dive into it. Myself and Chris, we've had a couple correspondence about possible options for the church to pursue other than the current path of this rezoning request. The church does believe that the Board of Adjustments special use permit is the path that they want to go down. And so that timeline, for the sake of council, Board of Adjustments meets on Wednesday. They will set a public hearing for the February 2nd Board of Adjustment meeting. A public hearing is required by code, but it doesn't specify that time frame, like how far out that has to be. It doesn't specify publication requirements. It doesn't even specify that the board has to set it. But we are operating under the same assumptions as a planning and zoning hearing. So following the same process. So Board of Adjustment will set a public hearing Wednesday for their Wednesday, February 2nd meeting, of which the timeline that the church is on must submit their documentation by the 15th of this month for consideration at the February 2nd meeting. At that time, once a decision's made, then there would be more information available to this council on how it wishes to proceed. That is why staff's recommendation is to table until February 7th.
I have a question. If we decline to rezone it, they can still go to P and Z, or they can still go to the Board of Adjustment, correct?
That is correct.
So the only reason we should table it is if we would think that we would consider it if they don't approve it, correct?
Correct.
Now are we talking? Are we-
Well, yeah, we should make clear as far as the, what we have to do as far as the rezoning request. If we wait,
So
and
the,
if we don't do anything with the rezoning request, then nothing, or does the city council have to act on that?
at a
rezoning?
minimum, there has to be some form of
Okay.
action tonight. Otherwise, the item dies. And then we're starting to talk about, does that constitute a failure? Because the way our code specifies that if it's not approved, or excuse me, I'm going to lean on John with this one because we had several discussions on it, where an inaction we believe could be considered that the item fails and then could not be considered by council again for 1
Got
year.
it.
And so by tabling the item,
I understand.
it's at least action taken on it that it keeps it alive, for lack of a better way of describing it.
Okay.
I'm in support of tabling it. And I just want to say that there's maybe some help I could ask staff for in the intervening time, where if it does come back to us, I think there's information that I'd still like to have prior to making this decision, specifically related to the kinds of investments Decorah already has in the business park, and what the tax revenues coming off the park are and are projected to be. That's information that like I've been doing my best to come up with, but maybe some staff help so that I can make a better informed decision if we do table to February 7th. That's why I'm going to try to do that.
I'll second the table.
I am not,
Okay, just, was,
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you made
Okay.
a motion.
I just-
I'll make said motion.
okay,
I'll second it
we have Randy makes a motion to table
until February 7th.
until February 7th. Zittergruen seconds.
Johnson
Discussion.
second.
Johnson, second.
Sorry. Johnson seconded. Now discussion.
I said this last time, that I feel like we are essentially shirking our responsibility as a council to make a zoning decision. We're being asked to make a zoning decision. It's a rough one and we don't want to do it. I think we don't want to do it because, again, as I said last time, if this wasn't a church or there was no entity there, and we were just looking at the piece of property and saying, do we want to take C5 land and change it to R1 residential? I think we'd say no. And so to me, we should be approaching this problem not based on what it is before us, but what it is we're thinking about for the future. Because I, as I mentioned last time, have grave concerns about taking this property, this C5 zone area that has the potential to be industry, in an area where there's the potential for business to come and pay lower utility costs, right? So the business park is with My Energy. So already there's an advantage to go there than anywhere in Decorah because you pay lower utility bills. So that's one piece of property that an industry might want to come to in a way that they don't want to readily already come to Decorah. And so I guess I feel like what we're doing is tabling it, is we're just saying, we don't really want to make this decision because it's a hard one. And I get it's a hard one. But I also, like I said, I mean, I feel like I really want to do due diligence in terms of what the property was meant to be and should be in the best interest of Decorah and Decorah taxpayers. So, I mean, if we vote to table it, it's just kicking the can down the road, but it's also shirking responsibility. If we say no and they go to Board of Adjustments, then it's on Board of Adjustments to decide. But right now what we're saying is, well, this is just too hard for us and we don't want to do the hard work of looking at how we want to actually see our city grow.
Any other comments?
I'll just say that my reason for preferring to do it in this order is that if we were to consider it tonight and voted it down, they could still go to Board of Adjustments. Whereas this, to me, puts the preferable rezoning option on the table first, which is the temporary one and not the permanent one. If Board of Adjustments is going to approve it anyway. And by the way, you know, if you have this opinion, it's probably good to go share it at the Board of Adjustments meeting, but I'd rather see it temporarily, a temporary use permit change and not a permanent rezoning. And I think this is the right order.
Any other?
I just wanted to ask one question in reference to it. So whatever decision we as a council make on this, whatever the Board of Adjustment makes, that overrides whatever decision we would make as far as deciding whether to rezone it or not. Is that correct?
It's two separate,
Mhm.
it's two separate processes that that they can go through under the city code. The Board of Adjustment is a specific section of the code that says an applicant can get a special use permit essentially for a property under specific criteria that's labeled there. And one of them is a religious institution. It really is completely separate from the rezoning application process. It's just a different route. Maybe accomplishes the same thing, but it's not considered rezoning per se.
Right. But I guess my question is, if we take action as a council to decide whether up or down on the rezoning, whatever the Board of Adjustment decides, that overrides whatever we decide, correct?
No,
Unless this council approves the
we
rezoning, then it's
approve it,
moot.
Right, then it becomes moot for them to even
Right.
talk about it.
So
But if we vote
it's,
it down, they still could override whatever we did by
The-
approving it.
But it's a different avenue.
It's a different
Right, right,
avenue.
right.
Yeah.
I understand. Right.
Essentially, yes, I don't want to say they override because they don't have the authority to override the rezoning decision.
Right.
They have the authority to grant a special use, a special exception under the city code. So
And the city council cannot overrule the Board of Adjustment.
Right, I
Correct.
guess that's what I was
Yep.
getting
Right,
at.
they are
Okay.
quasi
Yep, yeah.
judicial, so it goes
Right,
through the
right.
courts.
Okay, thank you.
I know a little bit about this.
Yeah,
And
okay.
the special exception is codified within state code. If I'm not wrong, the 335.15 for counties and 414.12 for cities, for them to be able to grant a special exception. So it is very appropriate for the Board of Adjustment to address it using a conditional use or special use permit that the city council doesn't have the ability to offer, correct?
correct.
Okay, any further comments, discussions? Roll call?
Chisel,
Aye.
Johnson,
Aye.
Neal,
Nope.
Olson,
Aye.
Luce,
Aye.
Zittergruen.
Aye.
Hadley.
Aye.
Motion carries. Reappointments to the tree board of Mark Faldet, Dick Gilgo, and Drew Pellet.
Move for approval of the three men.
Second.
Moved by Chisel, seconded by Luce. I believe that they will still have 2 openings on that, which I'll mention again later. Any further discussion? Roll call.
Chisel,
Aye.
Luce,
Aye.
Olson,
Aye.
Zittergruen.
Aye.
Hadley,
Aye.
Johnson,
Aye.
Neal.
Alliant Energy's response to the IUB letter.
Okay,
Travis?
okay, so this is a discussion item. There's no action or anything at this time for this. So the council approved the letter recommended by the MEU task force to submit to the IUB for the data request. And that was submitted. IUB responded and directed Alliant to respond to the complaint as well as answer 6 additional questions. Their deadline was the 20th. As we reported at the last meeting, they requested an extension that was granted until the 22nd. We have Alliant's response. To summarize it, the full thing is included in the Dropbox, but to summarize, they're denying any data requests and request the IUB dismiss the complaint filed as excuse me, as well as requesting that the IUB not necessarily dismiss their own questions, but in response to several of IUB's questions, state that they believe these questions are unfair and should not be asked of them. The premise behind their dismissal request is that the information sought, and they reference this several times throughout the document, the data requests sought could and potentially would be used against them in a municipalization effort if an election were to be held. And so that's the grounds that they've asked for the IUB to dismiss the complaint. So IUB has not filed a response yet. They have, I believe it's 30 days from Alliance response filing to file their own response. And then after those 30 days does trigger basically a 15-day window, I believe, that all parties could file a response to the IUBs.
To clarify, it's not after the 30 days. It's as soon as we get the IUB response, that starts a 15-day. It's a 14-day window, I think, but it might be 15.
Yep.
So it's not
Correct.
after 30 days, then 15 more. It's after whenever we hear from IUB, which could be tomorrow, that starts the 2-week period.
Correct. Thank you for, and it very well could be 14 as opposed to 15. So that's going to be kind of the time frame of any kind of potential action again of council. Really wanted to just put this in front of council. Here's the response. this is the time frame.
And then also the MEU will be, task force will be discussing it on Thursday.
Correct.
Correct.
They have not met since this response has been received, so they'll discuss it on Thursday.
It might be good to have a plan of response. So if the IUB comes out with a response and we have 14 days, my preference or my suggestion would be that we met with the task force, the MEU task force, to discuss options and thoughts together, council and task force, or at least utility committee and task force, however folks wanted to do it, public or not public, but well, it's a public meeting for
Yeah,
them.
it'd have to
so,
be a public meeting.
So at least to get the task force ideas, and maybe council would need to go into, I mean, depending what we're gonna do. When we've discussed things legally like that before, we've gone into closed session.
Would that fall under 21.5 for,
Yeah, we did it before, back in 2020. And in that one, though, we were asking for a specific remedy, and it was, I felt more akin to litigation.
This might be, right?
Yeah, I'd have to think about that a little bit more. I mean, we filed a complaint, but is it really a contested matter? I suppose we're asking IUB to have Alliant turn over well, not customer data, but data about their infrastructure. I'm not going to give a final opinion, but
Sure.
I'll think about that, whether we could justify a closed session on that.
'Cause we
More,
are-
more information is that the MEU task force does meet on Thursday, and I'm sure that they will discuss this. And I suspect, based on some conversations I've had, that they will have a recommendation for us. I don't know necessarily what that'll be. I know among the things that they might recommend are that we be prepared to file a response to the IUB's response. That would be normal and ordinary in cases like this, that the IUB will respond. They might say, Decorah is totally in the right here. They might say Alliance totally in the right. They're probably going to say it's a little column A, a little column B. But either way, it'd be normal for both parties in this to respond during that 14-day window. And that's a response that to do it correctly would require some legal expenditure. And I think that that's the question that will be before the MEU task force is going to discuss, encouraging the council to be ready to make that to make that decision as to whether that's something they want to pursue.
Didn't they write the complaint?
The
Came from the city.
they wrote the complaint with.
So, I mean, I do think I won't be able to be at that meeting on Thursday. But there is quite a bit of writing that the task force could do with some then legal review as opposed to legal writing, which would save money.
And I'm sorry, just in case this wasn't mentioned, to put it on your radar, if a closed session can be justified, it can only happen to discuss strategy with legal counsel. So make sure if you're thinking about hiring outside counsel or if that's me, just keep that in mind.
I want to be clear that I suspect that they're going to have that conversation on Thursday, and it's just something that as a council we ought to be thinking about, hearing their recommendation and then acting on it. 9:30 a.m. on Thursday morning.
I think it's.
I think it's 9:15,
is
just
9:15.
to,
Thank you. That's probably right. Yeah, I've got 9:15.
I guess in my mind, what might trigger the closed session is that I think the MEU task force is if the IUB comes back and says, we think you have validity, we want you to file a formal complaint, that's a whole different process that will trigger a discussion that we need to have with a lawyer. I guess that's where I think it might go.
We'll know a lot more when we hear back from the IUB. I just think
Correct.
it's wise for the council to be prepared to have these conversations at our next meeting and to pay attention to what happens on Thursday.
Okay. Thank you. Open seats we have open seats on various boards. Telco board, we have 1. P and Z, we have 2. Board of Adjustment, 1. Tree board, 2. now there would be the sustainability also. That would be 2. We're asking that anyone who wishes to apply for any of these boards to go online, look at the application and have the applications in by January 10th. Just so that they know that. And I think Travis is putting information out as far as that is concerned as well.
Yes.
And they're fun.
Hmm?
It's fun.
That's correct. That's right.
We have pushed that information out. Mayor, question I
Okay,
might ask you.
yeah.
Do you want the Sustainability Commission to also have the deadline of January 10th? Because the
I would
information
say
we
so
pushed out,
too. I would say
you
so.
want that next week
Yes.
as well?
Yes, please.
Okay.
So they would be applying for spots that don't exist until we publish in the newspaper. When does that get published?
Actually, the 10th won't work because you're right, Stephen. Based on the publication of our paper cycle, it'd be on the 13th.
So it would be the sustainability that would be go beyond the January 10th deadline.
Correct. The
other ones-
positions
that
won't
sounds
legally
good.
exist until the 13th.
That sounds good. Okay. City manager, department heads and council reports. Travis?
Yes, so we'll start by saying I hope everyone had a safe, happy new holidays, new year and all that. I know it was a good time to be in Decorah. My family was able to enjoy short trips to visit extended family and able to sleep in our own beds. So we're extremely grateful for 2021 and how it ended for us at least. And but as far as work's going, still meeting with various business owners and stakeholders within the community and having continuing to build those relationships. Currently working with the school as well on some hopefully potential projects in the future. So continuing to work on building those relationships.
Okay. Carrie?
Currently working on the budget, waiting for some information. So I'm knee deep in that. With just hiring Renee, the next step will be tweaking 2 job descriptions so we can hire the next person and make room for more of that piece of handling the website and more of that. So improve the communication with the community.
Okay. Department heads. I'll jump up and then I could help a little bit by the fact that I believe we do now have a new citizen in our community that's going to be using Park and Rec. Is that correct, Andy? Okay. Yeah. Well wishes to her, Dad. Okay. All right. Anybody else at that table?
Chopper, what's the timeline on our opting in text messaging?
So the agreement's in. They sent an email today with, they've assigned a project manager. So they also asked for a couple of the user IDs, so submitting like all the department heads and a couple additional people at Park Rec staff and street staff to be able to access, to be able to use the system. Hopefully for a training in the next week or 2. They think we'll have a quick turnaround, but as soon as I get the training, then we'll send out a message to the staff and let everybody know. So hopefully it's coming. Hopefully when we meet again next time, I'll give you a real good answer when it's going to be live.
And then will there be sort of a marketing campaign to get people to sign up for it? Because you have to opt in, correct?
Yeah, so the opt-in is specifically for, the blast that we want to send out or the Park Rec things.
Yep.
The emergencies, we could just use what we have, like pull from the other databases.
Sure.
But for the opt-in, then they have to choose to do those. We can't legally send those out without that. But yeah, will be probably some Facebook and some PR through the Decorah News and newspapers and stuff like that. So I think we'll see a couple different things on that.
Any updates on the laptops that you'd ordered for the council?
Yeah, laptops arrived and I have not had time to even unbox them. So they just got here.
Super.
So hopefully by end of the week or early next week, I'll get those
All
ready
right,
for you guys.
super. Thanks, Chopper.
Yep.
Last one for you, Chopper. How about the RFP for the topology of the network?
The RNS contract, Chopper.
Yeah, I believe that Travis had requested that to be, we had hoped to bid February to March 1st was the deadline we gave RNS to have that ready for bid. Is that what you're asking for, the fiber to the home bid?
Yeah, yep.
Yep. I will get a more update on that. Matter of fact, that my phone just rang and that's who was calling me. So I'll get a more update on that and I'll send it out to a few of you.
All right, thank you.
Okay, anything else? The department heads? Okay, Ross, I think we'll start with you.
Happy New Year. I'm not ill. I am just being cautious. Just hoping that 2022 is a respite from 2020 and 2021. We've got a lot of fun stuff to do and good things to follow up on. So it's exciting times.
Thank you. I'm going to go down to Kurt this time.
Nothing, Mayor.
Steve Zedigrun?
A couple of things. First, I just want to thank all the people who helped the streets department during the snowstorm last week. That's one of the things that makes our city staff one of the best that I know of is that y'all are flexible and adaptable and willing to do what's in the whole city's best interests and not just looking after your own department or your own job description. So thank you very much for your pitching in. Those of you who were unafraid to get behind a plow, which sounds crazy to me. The other thing that I just want to sort of talk about, I've been getting more and more emails and contacts from constituents who are, they hear rumors or concern about the quick trip development possibility on College Drive. I've had helpful and illuminating conversations with city staff, with Greg and John and Travis. And I wonder if it might be an appropriate, I don't think we need to talk about this tonight, but some of the information that was shared with me was helpful and clarifying. And I wonder if it wouldn't be in the community's interest for the council to discuss the issue during a work session so we can find out the status of where staff sits on zoning considerations and sort of precedent for this. I'd like to have that conversation if there are other council members who would be in favor of that discussion.
I would, for sure.
I think since we're at the new year, one thing I'm going to ask council is that when you're taking, comments and stuff from the public, which is you're bound to get them, but please, there's two sides to both issues. And to go to the staff, basically it's going to Travis or Carrie to get this side also. But I think the discussion is good, but I just want to remind you that, we've got great departments, we've got great staff, and to follow that procedure and make sure that we get all the information from in-house too.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. And as I said in my comment, I've been having great discussions with John, with Travis, and with Greg. And I just think we could all benefit from looping them into the public forum. So totally agree with you there. Thanks.
I would say, just to add on to that, I think that would be a good idea because, I think I got stopped 5 times by random people on the street downtown about it. So, I do think being able to talk about this development as a council prior to winding up where we are right now, unfortunately with the church, where it's sort of like, I feel like we should have had these discussions long ago and then it would just be easier. So it seems like there might be some decisions that the council's going to have to make on this. So I'd rather be informed now than, have it through the process and then sort of be like, well, the process has been going on. So here's what you're left with.
Well, I think it's really easy for us to say is there is a process, and I'll take that back. If I don't know, especially if I'm doing it, I'll take it back to Travis or whatever so that we can get the discussion going. Do you have any comments on that at all, Travis? Okay. That sounds good. Steve Lewis.
Yes, I would like to urge everyone to consider the cautious time we live in. And if it's even more susceptible for people to catch than measles, the current variant that's out there isn't anything to be taken lightly. So I'd like to encourage everyone to consider the original guidelines we had of distancing and mask and not gathering in large groups and protect ourselves that way, not putting undue pressure upon our hospital system. I think we've heard from the hospital system that they're very concerned about the volume of business they're having to deal with. I think I've heard that one person didn't live because of denial of access because of COVID situations going on. And that is a tragedy. When this is something as citizens, we can step up and do our part to make sure we're not spreading and we're keeping our distance and following the guidelines that as now we should all know by the back of our hands. So I'd like to encourage everyone to consider safety first. Wish everyone a happy new year and to think that as the Sustainability Commission has now been enlarged, I think we still have a current nomination
Yes.
on hand.
I will reach out to that person as well and inform them that, inform them that there is potential for another seat. So, thanks, Steve. Kirsten.
All right, I got a couple of things. Just an update on Andy Carlson. I talked to his uncle on Friday, I think it was. He's in really good spirits. He's still got 3 or 4 weeks of treatment still to go. Most of his extended family got a chance to go up to see him up at the hospital. They obviously couldn't get in the room with him, but they were able to stand outside the room and see him through the glass, and they spelled his name out and said, "I love you," and all this kind of stuff. So it really boosted his spirits. My understanding is that once his treatment is complete, he'll get a chance to come home for a while and then hopefully get on the bone marrow transplant list and get a transplant. So that's where he's at. But he's in good spirits. I attended the Iowa League of Cities Leadership Development class first part of December over Mason City. The second part comes up this week. It's on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday at noon, all 3 days. So if anybody's interested in taking it, the first one tomorrow at noon is on elected now what, and the other 2 are in budgets on Wednesday, and Thursday is planning and zoning. So if anybody's interested in that, I'm sure you can still get signed up. Third thing I have is Park Rec has a winter walk thing going on, trying to encourage people to get outside, get walking in the winter and stuff like that. My wife and I did it last year. It's really a good program to get you motivated to get outdoors. Sometimes on these cold days, it takes a lot of motivation to get out there and do it. But if you get signed up for this, it kind of gives you an extra boost to get out there. So I encourage everybody to sign up for that. That's it.
Thanks, Kirsten.
We should have like a walk with your council member. Like we should all have like, you could sign up to walk with one of us. So people could talk our ear off. It'd be awesome. We should do that. I mean,
Finally.
if anybody wants to walk with Councilwoman Neal, let me know. We can go for a walk. Not much. Happy New Year, everybody. Omicron is raging. I do encourage people, if you're not vaccinated, please get vaccinated, get boosted. Thank you very much to our streets department and public safety and everyone who worked on the holiday, worked probably overtime over the holiday. We really appreciate seeing city staff out there and doing all they can to keep us safe during the holidays. So thank you to all of you. Other than that, I don't have much.
Okay, thank you. Randy.
Just a reminder, Budget Committee, we're going to meet on Wednesday at 4 o'clock and start discussing the 2080 agreements for hotel motel funding. Other than that, I have nothing, Mayor.
Okay. Just a note that the committee assignments for the coming year will be as they have been. And Kirsten will be taking over Andy's assignments. If I'm looking just concentration wise, for myself or what I'd like to see is, working with the housing, the fires and city capital improvement plans, also looking with the fiber initiative, and then we're going to be getting reports from the goals from the city, so that will be worked out. We had started a long time ago, the community forums that we did with leaders. And I know that there's two different aspects of the sustainability that require also meeting with the community, but I am going to sort of revert back and use that format. So on Tuesday, January 25th, from 5 to 6, we will be having a Zoom meeting with community leaders. I'll send out a reminder or send out information to those leaders. At that point, we have got new members from the hospital that are on, and it'll be just for that particular one, for that quarter, it'll be generally people going around just saying who they are, where they're at, kind of what's going on in their arena. So we kind of get that back going again. In the future, we will also partner with sustainability in a sense as far as education. I would see that the task force may be doing separate ones in relation to that or together as well. But I want to make sure we get quarterly meetings out to the public. So the Zoom on the 25th is from 5 until 6. I also am taking the leadership development course. I took it to begin with, but at that point it was like a deer in the headlights. And now that I've been able to get more information, has been very helpful. So, okay, anything else?
Mayor, have we heard anything back from Michelle Barnes on our strategic planning meeting we had?
I have not. Have you?
She sent me a draft to review, make sure there weren't any edits, things missing. Staff did catch one as far as positioning on priority list, as well as a couple spelling of names and things like that. We should have a final report here real soon.
Great.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Just some clarity on committees and work sessions. And we
Right.
had a discussion once that I thought we were moving towards work session formats, not committee formats. Usually if there's a committee meeting, like we all get know that it's happening, like there's an announcement, even if we're not on that committee. I'd like, if that's going to happen, I'd like that to continue. But I guess I'm kind of confused, I must admit, on
Well, I think
how we're
that
moving, how we're operating.
I'll go back to you. You're ready to talk. So
So yes, on the committees, they still exist. The chair is still able to call a meeting, or two committee members can still call a meeting. But we talked about with the council as far as with staff, when we're creating stuff to present to council, as opposed to going straight to a committee with it and then to a council meeting or a council work session, that similar to, if you'll notice the last couple meetings, the last item or the last two items on the agenda have been items that we believe are going to generate discussion and are purely discussion-based items. That's the format that we as staff have started to go towards. The chair is still, those committees still exist.
So are we going to have work sessions every fourth Monday?
So actually, the mayor and I
Yes.
did just talk
we'll
about,
just talk about that.
now, not for the sake of just holding a work session. I will tell you, I'm not a fan of meeting just to meet. But the 24th, the council has talked about convening, going through the sustainability plan to make sure that the council's priorities are still the same, in line with the sustainability plan, and then holding a joint meeting with the Sustainability Commission to show them the direction that council wants them to head. So that was the plan for the 24th of this month.
Okay, I mean, I guess as a council member now, I would say that there's never been a work session where I felt like we were just meeting to meet.
Mhm.
It does seem like we always have something we should be discussing in a work session. Because we don't meet regularly with committees. Just a thought.
And know that my comment, that was just having the standing meeting, standing
right.
work session.
It's just good because then you just hold that Monday,
Mhm.
right? I mean, I just know
Mhm.
to hold that Monday.
And on just that related note, I had an opportunity, and I think other council people had the opportunity to meet with Jessica Rilling with the chamber to have a one-on-one kind of meet and greet and just talk. And part of my conversation with her, it became clear that there's just a communication disconnect between chamber activities and what the larger council hears. So if we could have, like, I believe that Steven Zittigren has done a good job communicating back about the task force and the sustainability committee. I would just like to ask that my colleagues do the same thing for council meetings, chamber meetings, SMID, jobs and whatnot, because we don't get a lot of access to that information. And I think we operate in a vacuum sometimes. So would that be appropriate in other matters?
I believe Councilmember Hadley is asking on the agenda.
Yeah,
I will say historically, I've seen that typically under, so item 16 is city manager, department head and council reports, where the council report section is typically if you're designated as a liaison to a certain boards
Correct.
where an update's given at that time.
Okay, we just, I don't believe we've gotten regular updates in the past, and I would appreciate it. So that's my ask to my fellow council members.
I will try and remember to put that in there, but also if I don't get it out, or if I'm not thinking of it at the time, with somebody just tap me on the shoulder and say, well, you check with the people to see if they had any meetings this month and what the
Sure.
report
It
is.
might be great to just have a list of every committee that we have and who's appointed, and we just go down them and say, have you met? I mean, for me, with sustainability always meets right after. So I generally, it takes a month to report back out. So I had another question that Ross brought up. When is the hotel motel, when do we need to renegotiate that 2080 agreement?
Is it the end of March or March 1? Can't remember.
So
It's March.
It does seem to me, given that that is a substantial amount of money, that's going to require, I think, quite a bit of conversation, that we should start thinking even today or tomorrow about when is it we're going to meet on that before it comes up, to have an idea of where council's sitting with what they want to do with hotel motel.
Well, and part of that is part of the discussion is for,
So that'll be on Wednesday.
yeah, right. Part of it, at least to get moving on it. Right.
But anyone
That's
can
good.
go. So it would be good if everyone knew when the meeting was. If that
That's-
had been announced, that would have been helpful.
But that's what we said.
I don't know that we said it for this Wednesday, though. I thought it was just,
No,
I think it was said at the
Randy
last council
was.
meeting.
you tried to set it for the last Wednesday and it was no.
right. Right.
I guess I didn't hear the date, so.
Okay.
Four on a-
4 o'clock. on Wednesday. Okay, anything else? Move for adjournment. Thank you.